Good morning. That's our theme for this summer, is time keeps on slipping into the future. I got to admit that video kind of got to me a little bit. Pretty powerful. You know, the thing is about time, the very first week we did something, and I want you to pull out your phones. This is one time we give you a chance to actually get your phone out during service, other than, you know, looking at scriptures and our outlines on the phone. I want you to take out your phone, and every week we're trying to offer an object lesson that you'll remember the service from. And I want you to go to your alarm clock, and I want you to set your alarm clock for 10:25 or 11:25. Yeah, 11:25. And the reason why, it gives you a relief. If you're new here today, I'm going to stop at 11:25. Whether I'm done or not, I'm going to stop at 11:25. If I'm in the middle of a sentence, I'm going to stop at 11:25. And the reason, and that's going to be the end of our service. There'll be nothing else said. I'll walk to the door. I'll shake your hand as you leave. I want you to understand, and this time keeps slipping away. Doesn't matter what you're doing in life, whether you're at a high or at a low, when time is up, it's time is up. And that's just the way it is. You know, in churches, we have a tendency to, you know, we always show off the perfect family, right? And I want to talk to you a little bit about that today, about this Father's Day and how important it is. The next week, Teresa Breeding, she spoke, and her and her daughter, they done a little thing here where they shot an arrow. Her daughter almost hit bullseye every time. But the Bible says that your children are like arrows in a quiver. And she shared a message about how you must direct your children towards the target, and the target is God. And if you do not make a lot of effort at aiming your child towards God, don't be surprised that they don't hit the target. It takes a lot of time and effort to aim to be able to hit that bullseye. And so if we want our children to hit the bullseye of knowing and loving God, we've got to really aim the arrows and aim them towards God. And today I want to tell you something. When you think about time, and we think about how powerful time is, we will notice that time keeps on going. And it keeps slipping away. In our attempts to be, you know, the church, and you know, isn't that a beautiful church family right there? It's kind of the way we are. We look at that beautiful church family, and that's kind of the ideal. That's what we want, but it's not always what we get, right? And time is going by so fast. We kind of done an illustration like this once before. I think David did. I want to show you something right here. When you think about time to have an effect on a person's life, a child's life, in this jar right here is 936 marbles. From the time a child is born until they're 18 years of age, and they normally leave the home or go off to college, which my sons went off to college at 17, so I wouldn't even have that many marbles. There's 936 weekends. That's all, 936 weekends. And that's all you have. You only have 936 weekends. And then it's over, and it's gone. This right here represents, you know, if you're for a lot of reasons, but if you're in a blended family, if you've got a shared parenting role, which is, by the way, it's 82% of all families are in that realm, believe it or not. And you only got half that amount of marbles. Did you know that we put a lot of emphasis on, well, I'm going to try when I can to take my kids to church and have the church influence their life. Do you realize that they say for the average family, usually, if they're considered the faithful families, the ones that really take church as a high priority, they go to church about 40 times a year. And I think that's decreasing every year. They go to church about 40 weekends a year. And so that's about 40 hours the church gets with your child. Don't ever expect the church with 40 hours a year to have the greatest impact on your child. It'll never happen. The church is to aid you. The church is to help you. The church is to help direct your child. And believe me, I'm talking to our youth department, our children's department, and I'm saying, hey, you've only got about 40 marbles a year. Be sure that you take and make a great impact on those students every single weekend, because you don't have much time to impact their life. And it goes by fast. You know, you get busy in life sometimes and you miss a section of your life, and you think of 52 marbles, and, you know, you think, well, there's a lot of marbles left. But you think that right there, that might have been just your child's third year of life. It's gone. You'll get to enjoy the fourth year. Maybe you enjoy the second year, but you'll never get to relive the third year. That's what I'm saying. Time is quickly passing away, and what we do really does count. And so if we can't count on the church raising your child for God, and we can't count on the church as being the only thing that points these arrows towards the target, then we have to call and ask for the families. Families, come on families. You need to get with it. You need to fight for your children. If there's ever been a time we need to fight for our children, and I'm telling you, the church has not even done that great of a job, to be honest. You know, we hold up, here's the perfect family. I know a guy wrote a book, and he sent it out to about 30 or 40 people to read it and to give their opinion. And they go, well, your book's great. It's the ideal church family, but I don't fit into that picture. That's not who I am. I heard about a church one time, and we've actually done it our very own self here. You know, you want to present to the public the perfect church, right? The perfect church. So what we did at one time in this church, we had a stock photo. And we put it out on all our stuff. Come to Grace Community Church. Look at all the beautiful, smiling families. It wasn't even our people. I don't know if we didn't have any smiling people back then or what, but we didn't even use our own people. Now the slides we've got in our staff, those pictures, for most of them are all our pictures. And I got news for you. Our church is not perfect, and your pastor is not perfect, and we don't represent perfect families. But guess what? Neither does our world. 82% of our families in this world are from broken, separated, lost, homes, drug-infested homes, all kind of things. And so this does not represent the basic church in America. You know, we want to be the ideal family, right? You know, that's the ideal family. As far as the picture, you've got the man, the woman, the beautiful children. Isn't that ideal? Isn't that beautiful? But we don't know. That's just a stock photo. We don't know. This guy right here could be on drugs for all we know. She could be stepping out on him. The kids could, something being going on with them. We don't know. That's why maybe we like to use stock photos, because we don't know anything about them. When I thought about Father's Day, I had this great message for Father's Day, and I was thinking, then I found out my son was going to be here, and I'm thinking, man, I can't preach the Father's Day message I wanted to preach because, he's here. He knows the difference. An expert's anybody, 20 miles from home. Things are not always as they seem. Man, if I had a lot of marbles to do over, I would do some things over. But this is what we want. This is what the church holds up that we are. But in reality, we may be more like, there's the Father and the Son. That's a beautiful picture, right? But for most families, it's not one of these pictures that relates most to them. Maybe it's these guys right here. I don't even know who those guys are. But they don't look happy. Last Thursday night, I was sitting up late, and I was going through my Ancestry.com, and I was seeing pictures. People, all your family members, they put stuff on there. And I got to reading about my great-great-grandfather and he was going to come from Georgia to Florida. He was moving there, and somebody wrote there, and there's an article there about him. The night before he got to move to Florida, he got arrested for being a whiskey bootlegger. And I thought we didn't have none of that stuff in our family. I'm kind of afraid to dig any farther into my ancestry. I don't know whether I should do a DNA thing, you know? Are some of you like that? You're kind of afraid to go to Ancestry.com. You're afraid of what you might find. But here's the thing. We need to quit acting like we've got the perfect family. I never understood this right here on Facebook for a long time. You go to Facebook and you go down and, I always thought like, is it like you're married or you're not married? That's like pretty much, you're either male or you're female, right? That's complicated now. I don't know how, but it's complicated. But this right here says relationship complicated. And it is. Relationships are messy. Relationships are complicated. In most homes, you used to go in a home and, you see all these pictures on the wall. That's the big thing. Parents would put all these pictures of all their kids on the wall. Now it's complicated. It's complicated. Okay, that kid's not with that one anymore. Should I take that picture down or not? Or so-and-so died and they're remarried, so should I leave the old picture up or not? Should I take it down? It's complicated. It's complicated at the graveyard. You bought all these plots. You bought them for the whole family. You wanted the whole gang to be together one day. Now it's complicated. I talked to a guy the other day, and he said that most people are being cremated down. I'm thinking, cremated. And I'm thinking, maybe it's because of this right here. It's complicated. It's complicated, right? Things are not always as they appear. They're not always picture perfect. And, I was thinking, I heard of this story about this preacher. He went, it appeared that he was all this in a bag of chips. He went to the hospital. This guy was dying. He was somebody's father, and they were all gathered in. And he went in and had a very private moment with this father. And while he was in there, he was talking to this father, and the father was making motions. They knew he didn't have long to live. And he wrote him a note, and then the buzzard went off, and they came in and they done all the stuff they do, and he was now at the funeral, and he was standing at the funeral, and he said, when someone is dying, their last words have impact. And come to think of it, your dad gave me a note right before he died, and with everything happened, I forgot to read it. So he's at the funeral, and he reads the note, and the note said, and they were all waiting and leaning in to hear it, and it says, "You're standing on my oxygen tube." It's not always as it seems, right? Here's the thing. Moses, when he was an old man, Moses wrote Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. And he wrote that. Well, he wrote some of the Psalms. I don't know if you know that or not. But when Moses was on his deathbed, and he was trying to think of what he wanted to tell the children of Israel and tell Joshua, here's one of the things he said. Teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom. I believe there's value in numbering our days. It makes you count. It makes you think. It makes you weigh. See, the thing about time is scarcity of an item is what makes it valuable. I'm telling you, the years are passing by. Thursday night, I was sitting there, and I was up late, and I was looking on that Ancestry.com, and I started seeing Sharon's family, and I looked at her dad, and I noticed the date, and I noticed his age. I just turned 61 in May, and her dad died at 61. thinking, that's me now. That's my age. It makes you, so the scarcity of an item, if you were to take the thing and every week you and your kids went in and you dropped another weekend, kids, the scarcity of what you got left makes everyone valuable. Some of you could go this right here. That's about how old I am. The Bible only guarantees you 70 years. So, I don't even have this many marbles left according to the Bible. Now, God may have mercy on me and I get to live a few more marbles beyond that. But you start thinking of the scarcity. Anything that there's only a few left of becomes valuable. So we listen to older people sometimes, and they have begun to figure out how much time they got left, and what they've got to say is valuable. Here's the thing. I want you to think, well, if we can't point to any of us, and not the pastor, not the church, is perfect, then let's go to the Bible, right? Let's go to the Bible. The Bible is full of perfect families, right? I want to lead you to the Bible. I don't want any fathers leaving here today feeling bad. That's not the point of the message. I don't want you leaving here with regret. But let's go to the first family. You know the first family, God's family, that God created. Well, see, when God created Adam out of the dust and then Eve, well, the first family, wifey Eve tricked hubby Adam into disobeying God. Then things got really bad when one of their boys, Cain, killed the other one, Abel. That's the first family, folks. Well, maybe that's not a good illustration. Let me go to another one. Cain ran away, probably to escape prosecution after that. Well, let's go to Noah's family. Noah found grace in the eyes of God. That's got to be the perfect family, right? Noah saved his family from the flood, and then he got drunk. He got plastered. Maybe traveling around in that ark for so long with his family and stinking animals was a little too much for him. So when he got off the ark, the first thing he did, he got drunk, he got plastered. And one of his sons, Ham, went in and saw his nakedness and went out and told everybody, oh, the old man is in there, he's drunk as all get out, he's naked. And his dad cursed him. There's no mention of Ham attending the Thanksgiving dinner the next year. Oh, yeah, that's a second family. Let's go on. Let's forget that family. What about Abraham's family? God promised a child to an elderly couple, Abraham and Sarah. So good. So far, so good, right? Abraham was not ready to wait on Sarah to get pregnant, so he had sex with his maid, Hagar. Oh, man. With a name like Hagar, she had to be, well, not so cute, I'll just go on. Hagar got pregnant, had a son called Ishmael, and then made fun of Sarah for being not able to have or get pregnant. Hagar and Ishmael left because they were no longer welcome in the happy family. Man, we're having a hard time finding a perfect family. Well, what about Lot's family? Now, this is a brainiac guy that tried to give his daughters over to a bunch of homosexual hoodlums. We better just move on. What about Isaac's family? Isaac, Jacob was one of Isaac's twin boys. He swindled his brother Esau of his birthright by lying to his dad with the help of his mother, Rebekah. Esau, understandably, then wanted to kill his brother Jacob, so Jacob ran away and lived with his crazy uncle. How many's got a crazy uncle? Go ahead and admit it. We've all got a crazy uncle. He went to see his crazy uncle Laban. Laban then tricked him into marrying his less than gorgeous daughter Leah. Then, as a goodwill gesture, Laban threw in his hot daughter Rachel to smooth things over. What a loving family. Don't get no better than the Bible, right? Reminds me of a lazy dad that didn't want to spend a whole lot of time with his kid. And his kid said, Daddy, can we do this? Daddy, can we do that? Daddy, can we do that? He saw a picture in a paper of a big old globe. And he got some tape out and he gave it to his son. He said, here, just go put this together. He tore it in a puzzle. It's like a puzzle. Put it together. He figured that'd take all afternoon. He could watch the game. His son come back in just a few minutes, had it all put together, and said, "Son, how in the world did you do that?" He said, "Well, Dad, on the back there was a picture of a man. And when you got the man together, you got the world together." What is the story that the Bible is telling us? What about Jacob's family? Jacob had 12 boys. He decided to buy one a designer coat of many colors. It made the other sons jealous. You know, they could have just got mad, and the next time they had a family outing or a family get-together, they decided not to let him play family football. But no. They said, "Let's kill him. Let's kill him. That's what we need to do. Let's kill him." Well, then Reuben says, "No, let's don't kill him. Let's just sell him. Let's just sell him to a camel caravan and make him a slave and send him to Egypt." Man, that's a great family, right? They told their dad that an animal killed him. Folks, these are the families that the Bible is built on. These are the families that are the good families. I don't think we would be allowed to read the bad families in church. What about King Saul? King Saul was the very first king of Israel. Saul was jealous of a little shepherd boy. Jealousy will do that sometimes. And because he was obsessed with killing David. Saul, then, Jonathan told David, said, "Hey, my dad wants to kill you. He hates you." And so Jonathan and David made this pact together, and Jonathan became more loyal to David than he did his dad. And it caused a lot of disunity in the family. Well, what about King David? We're going to get to one sooner or later. Just hold on. We've got a few more minutes. What about King David? King David's family. King David had a fling with the lady next door. I forgot about that. And he got her pregnant, and then he had her husband killed to cover it all up, and then the baby died, and then one of his sons, Absalom, betrayed him. Yeah, that's the guy that said the Bible said he was the man after God's own heart. Well, what about Solomon? Solomon, the Bible said he's the wisest man under the sun, not above the sun, under the sun. Solomon, the smartest guy in the world, had a palace full of wives. Enough said, right? There's a conflict there. There's a problem there. How can he be the wisest man that ever lived? But later Solomon penned these words. I don't know if you knew this. Solomon penned these words. "It is better to live alone in the corner of an attic than with a contentious wife in a lonely home." Maybe that's when he was the wisest man that ever lived. Well, Jesus' family. Hey, we made it. We're in Jesus' family. Jesus' parents, Mary and Joseph, left their son Jesus behind on a road trip to Jerusalem. They somehow missed the fact that the Son of God was no longer with them on their way home. They turned around and went back. It took 3 days, but they went back and they found him in the temple, and they made him get back on the wagon. Yeah, that's Jesus' family. How many's ever left your kids somewhere like Walmart, school? Okay, be honest. There's no perfect families here. I'm going to give you one more, a bonus family, because I was hoping I could get to one. Maybe I'm there. What about Paul's family? Well, actually, Paul, the apostle, never got married or had a family. That's right. That's right. The original church planner, the primary author of the New Testament, opted out on the whole family thing. Maybe he read an article similar to this one in 40 AD. So next time you're tempted or somebody else tries to put you down and make you feel like a failure, tell them to go read the Bible. What if the Bible is not about perfect people? What if the Bible is not about perfect families? Moses was leading the children out of Israel, and his wife said, I'm not doing this no more. And she went home. It wasn't Moses' desire. It wasn't what Moses wanted. But later on you read about Moses marrying an Ethiopian woman. Bible's not about perfect family. So here's the thing I want to tell you today in my short amount of time. Forget the ideal. Quit feeling like you don't measure up. You're the odd man or woman out. That's not true. You're normal. There is no ideal family. God never gives us a picture of an ideal family in the Bible. Never buy into the myth that your family has to be picture perfect, because it doesn't happen. God's telling a story, though, through this Bible. And I think I'm getting old, but I'm starting to figure out what this book is about. God's telling a story through your family and through my family of God's unfailing grace. God is at work telling a story, not of perfection. God is telling a story of redemption about your family and mine. It's like if you go to an antique car show, you get there and you see these beautiful, beautiful cars. But always there'll be a book somewhere standing on a stand or on the hood or somewhere on that car, and it'll be the proud owner sitting there, and he goes, "You should have saw it when I bought it. It was in a junkyard, and it looked like this. It was horrible. It took me a lot of work and a lot of time, but it's a beauty now, isn't it?" See, the glory of the story was how far it had came from. We used to sing a song in our church, and it came to my mind Thursday night when I realized my great-great-grandfather was a whiskey bootlegger. And I thought of what I'm doing today, even so average, not perfect. But I thought of a song they used to sing in our church when I was a kid. It was called, "It's My Desire to Live for Jesus." In the song, the reason said it was his desire to live for Jesus. He said, "If you could see where Jesus brought me from and where I am today, then you would know why I love him so." See, the church and families have got to quit judging each other. You may look around and you see somebody, they don't seem like they're very far along in the Christian faith, and they don't meet your ideal of the perfect family. But if you could sit down with them a few minutes and you could find out where they are coming from, then you would know why they are here. Some of the most honest people I've ever met is in Celebrate Recovery. Somehow or another, they get up the nerve to shatter the perfect family photo, and they stand up honestly and say, "Hey, I was addicted for this many years," or "I was this," or "I was that. I realized I'd wrecked my life." And they'll say, "I realized I couldn't do it on my own. I needed a higher power." And they come, and they sit in our services, where in a lot of services we are holding up the perfect family. And they're sitting there with the knowledge of knowing, no, you're not as perfect as you think you are. And if you was honest about your own addiction, you'd probably be beating us on Thursday night too. And the reason we sit here is because if you could see where Jesus brought us from and where we are today, then you would know the reason why we love him so. What if the Bible is not about perfect people? Because there is none. What if the Bible is telling the story of redemption? A God that decided to buy us and do a work in us. It's like a guy that found a treasure in a field. He went and bought the whole field to go dig the treasure out that he wanted. What if the Bible story is God already knows you're messed up and I'm messed up, and he says, "That's all right. I'm going to buy you and I'm going to do a work on you, and the more you're messed up, the more glory that's going to be in my story about you. God could have found some better people than he put in this book. But the glory of this story is that God redeems broken things and broken families and broken people. They're the grateful ones. They know where they've been. They know where they're going. God doesn't use perfect pictures. He uses broken people. I'm saying God give us a generation of leaders who are authentic and broken. Somewhere along the way, the church has switched to kind of a Sunday mindset, of daily mindset. What I'm saying there is, you can't expect just the church by itself to raise your family. It won't never happen. We've got to get, we get about 40 hours. You get about 3,000 hours a year. It's going to take parents getting serious about their job for God. Moses saw a bigger picture, a bigger approach, and he said, these are the commands, decrees, the laws the Lord your God has directed me to teach you and observe. In the land that you are crossing into Jordan to possess, so that you and your children and their children and after them may fear the Lord God as long as you live, by keeping all his decrees and commands that I give you, and so that you may enjoy your life, long life. He said, impress them on your children. This is Moses in his old age. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home, when you walk along the road, when you lie down, when you get up. In other words, Moses is calling on the parents to impress your children daily. He said, when you get into the land, don't forget God. He said, make symbols in your homes and in your hands and bind them upon their foreheads. Write them on door frames and houses of your gates. Be careful that you do not forget the Lord who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. See, it's time for us to quit passing the buck and take leadership personally. One of the greatest leaders there ever was Nehemiah. Nehemiah, the walls of Jerusalem was falling down, and Nehemiah knew the walls, anybody could attack them. Anybody could take their families. He said, go rebuild the wall till all of it reached. It said they had rebuilt the wall until it reached halfway. But then got disheartened. And he got an idea. I'm going to station all the people around the lowest points of the wall and the exposed places, posting them by families with their swords and their spears and their bows. And after he looked the things over, and he stood up and he said to the nobles and the officials and the rest of the people, don't be afraid of them. Remember the Lord, same thing that Moses said, who is great and awesome, and fight and fight for your families and your sons and your daughters and your wives and your homes. It's time for men to fight. It's time for mothers and fathers to fight for your children. I heard a story about a guy, his daughter, he loved his daughter, and they had kind of got on the wrong wavelength, and he went to see her, and she said some things to him he thought she would never have said to him. And finally he stormed out of her room, and he's going down the road, and he's crying. And he's thinking about the time he gets a phone call, and it's his daughter, the one he just had the fight with. And his daughter said, Dad, why did you leave? Why did you leave? Is our relationship not worth fighting for? I got to know that our relationship is worth fighting for. Somebody's clock's a little bit fast. I got one more minute. I'm saying there's no perfect families. We all come from the same place, brokenness. There's no perfect stories in the Bible. The book is a book of the glory of the redemption power of God, the redeeming power of God. God loves you. He loves your family. And no matter how messed up your family, just think about it. When you surrender to God and God puts your family back together, just think how glorious your story is going to be. And your family may not look like the family that you had an ideal of, but forget the ideal and let God do what he's going to do. We can't control people. We can't cause things to happen. What's going to happen has happened. I'm just saying, please, please, fight for your families.